get to $264.69 a year, $22.06 a month. The tax comes down to 0.25%.
That's in addition to our current quarter?
That's in it, yeah. So everything on this table is an add-on. I'm sorry.
We have a half.
We have yes, 0.5%. So you would now have 0.75% total interest, total income tax. But you'll notice in this case, how did I get that big of a number? You have $325,000 of surplus left over for maintenance. The millage, this is using a 30-year term. The millage is 1.76. So what you would have is a 1.76 mil bond issue for 30 years and 0.25% traditional income tax. So this is, I have a number of school clients that do it this way. This is splitting it 50-50, like right down the middle.
How much is left over in income?
Yeah, with 325 left over.
Can you lease partial building? Because if we're talking about a
Oh,
plan that's got two schools in it.
You can, not really. No, we could work around the footprint. You could lease one building or two buildings and not lease a third, or you can work around it. On the lease purchase, the investors that lend money on the lease purchase, they're not really too worried about trying to have a lease on every asset that you do, because all they really need is one building that they can threaten to evict you from. And it doesn't matter if they can threaten to evict you from 3 or 1. That's enough of a hammer to make the board pay. So, okay. Any other variations using this page?
Did you put in 24 million for income tax?
$245.86. $20. I'm sorry.
Still 40%.
Oh. Yes. With very little margin.
What is the millage now?
The millage is 1.4 mils.
I think when I was fiddling with that this afternoon, 24 million is if you go to 25 million, you have to go to 0.5%.
Yeah.
So that's 24 million is the most you can do with the income tax.
Mm-hmm.
40%.
Yeah.
My only concern, if we do a split, and I think a split is the logical thing to do, is do we then have people who don't like the income tax voting no, and people who don't like property tax voting no, and so you've lost everybody.
In this community, yeah. I mean, because I don't mean that from a. Hold on, I said that wrong. Because you've got these polls.
Yeah.
That's a very likely outcome. That is a very likely outcome. Just because of the demographic structure of the community, I think they're opposing
When you
forces.
look at it dollar-wise, not-wise, is it still likely that people who don't like income tax are going to say, I don't want to pay $20.40? I mean, is it still arguable? Do you think?
It's arguable. I mean, I would argue that, $20, well, I mean, I would argue that $20 is reasonably affordable,
Mhm.
but then I've been in rooms where I said that and people wanted to kill me, so I'm kind of nervous about saying that.
That's, I might have put this, that's $20.40. What income is that?
Per 100,000.
That's on the median.
That's on the median. That's a house of 161.3 and 66.250.
We also just know that we have this free fall that are at below that.
Yes. Yeah. We
So in all
got
reality, the sales pitch can't be the middle.
Well, this isn't intended to be the sales pitch. This is intended to be the smart people trying to figure out.
Yeah,
what
but we
we're
gotta,
charging
we gotta
people.
sell it, you know, I mean, you're asking me to walk down the road and sell it.
Well, no, I'm just, so you all need, this is like, you know, for you to figure out, is this a reasonable price to hit somebody with? I mean, yeah, it's gonna be less for people that have the $75,000 houses and the lower income. But you know, remember that meeting where we had to, I'd say we sort of have to pick the number
Well, I
to
get
use.
that, but we do
So-
have to realize there's a big ball
Yeah.
that you.
Yeah. Yeah. You got, like,
Folks that are-
you got three of them. You got one.
One in the middle.
You got one at the low end, one in the middle, and then, you know, and then one sort of out here. And, I mean, generally, it's just like, you know, one kind of in the middle. You don't have those opposing parts to it. So, you know, on one hand, this is from a taxation policy, it's a slightly more even allocation of tax liability across the board, but then you run into the problem of your demographic structure where there are going to be you're going to increase the number of no's on both sides of the argument. So it's not an easy decision on that end. But any other thoughts or questions on the traditional tax side?
Just a reminder that people on, Social Security is not taxed at all.
That's correct.
On the traditional side. And people who are over 65 get a $50 tax credit, which currently shields $10,000 in income in addition to Social Security. If you put on a 0.25 tax, income tax, that will only shield $6,667, just by the math.
Oh, okay.
This doesn't.
You should have emailed that to me earlier. I would have sounded really smart and say. He was pointing out that the people that are 65 and over receive a tax credit related to the income tax, which 1/4% would equate to how much in earned income?
The 0.5% currently equates to shielding $10,000. If you go up to 0.75%, you're only shielding $6,667 in addition to Social Security.
Okay, so there's some advantages to the older part of your community in using the income tax.
Well, and I think the point there is the concern of the traditional income tax affecting the older community. It is an income tax, so typically they get less money, and as you indicated, you don't pay the Social Security unless you make more money, and they charge you a little bit.
Yes.
Well, you make more, so you pay a little more. So the thinking is traditional is not as negative to the people, the older people on Social Security as maybe you think it would be.
That's the point.
One of the key advantages to the income tax is that the tax moves with your income. The less income you make, the less tax you pay. The more income you make, the more tax you pay. So that is a fair adjustment. The property tax doesn't care how much money you make. It just cares what your home is worth.
In the Social Security, you get a little break on it.
Right, right. So, okay. Anybody want to see anything else on this table? We did 30. So just to go in, again, a quick refresher. 37 years, 3.14 mils, 177.07, or 1476. Property tax only. We change it to 30 years, 3.51 mils, 198, $16.52 a month. If we split, I'm gonna go back to 37. If we split the project 50-50 between an income tax and a property tax, we're at 1.57 mils and 1/4% income tax.
You go over that 30 years.
This one? No, it's hard coded to 30. So $21.17. If we take it to 30, it goes to 1.76 mils. The income tax would stay the same. Total annual cost, $264.69, $22.06 a month.
Is it still yielding that excess of 300,000?
Yes,
Okay.
325. And assuming your income tax would grow over time, then it would go up from there. So we could, if you went that way with it, again, you could instruct the board to direct that surplus to maintenance capital, long-term capital, or we could just simply shorten the financing to burn off all the surplus. So when we get to the point of voting, I'm going to ask you to indicate that on the vote so I can know what to do with the income tax.
Do you know roughly how many years, if you use the surplus, you would take off your years of payment? I mean, is there, because you say you can burn it off, but
Yeah.
that could also.
Yeah, I can. All right, let's see. All right, you see? Okay, we're going to do this real time. You see this formula right here? This is the formula that calculates the payment. And F15 is the interest rate. 30 is the number of years. And D4 is the principal amount that we're financing. So I'm going to just make, for the sake of making this easy, I'm just going to change the number of years. But by changing this 30 to a shorter number, it will make this payment go up, and it will make that go down. So let's play a game. Who wants to guess what the term would need to be to burn it off?
27.
20. We're going to go with 28. The winner gets pizza.
22.
So 22 is not there.
That's pretty close.
20 years. 20 years. Now, I'm still using a 5.25% interest rate. It would probably be less than that using a 20-year financing. But what you would have is a bond issue.
Years would be even.
20 would be
Yeah. Not a whole lot. Yeah. So I'll keep it at the higher number, but approximately 10 years shorter on the financing. So you would have an income tax that, your choices on the income tax, if you remember Becky Grinshorn said you can use any term. So you could have a bond issue with a 0.25% income tax for a 20-year term, 22-year term, a continuing term. You just wouldn't want to do one shorter than, you wouldn't want to do a 15-year term with a 20-year financing because there's a bit of a problem there if you run out.
doing 20 years in bond.
Put 20 years in the bond issue?
Bond issue, 20 years.
Okay.
Change the interest rate too.
Yeah, I changed the interest rate to 4.75. That gets us to a 20-year, it's 288.43. $24 a month. So that's a 20-year property tax bond and a 20-year income tax bond. So this is splitting the issue between 50%, so we shortened the term of the bond issue to 20 years, and we shortened the term of the income tax financing to 20 years. And that would give you a millage of 2.18 on the bond issue and a quarter, sure it's 1/4. Yeah, and a 1/4% additional income tax.
Just, and there's still a little bit.
So
of
if you paid a
surplus.
0.5% on a 20-year note on income tax, you wouldn't need a problem.
If I did what today?
If I run the numbers right here, to a 0.5% on an income tax, you don't need a problem.
Yeah, you kind of work it backwards here.
So you want to go to, make this 40?
Yeah.
Yeah, 0.5% would cover you. Plus some. Will that affect your interest rate to do that?
You gotta take the 40 out of the top of there, David.
Where am I?
High left, D1.
Yeah, that's the whole 40
Yeah.
being.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the whole 40 being financed as an income tax. So the whole 40 would
Short $1
be,
million.
The formula there.
would be 331 a year.
It doesn't update.
Actually, it doesn't.
It comes up way back over.
If you update J19.
0.5% raises 3.44, and the amount needed is 3.1.
So he's got it
You're
pegged
pretty
to
alert.
the 1/4%, so
Yeah,
that's why.
right.
Everyone's looking at J19, David.
Yeah, you didn't change the
The
thing on the
negative,
bottom,
so.
on the sum there. But the reality of it is that the 0.5% at 20 years covers it, and you still got money left over.
Yep, 0.5% traditional income tax.
But it takes your median cost.
So it'll cost 331.08 a year, 27.59.
So that's basically $7 a month
$7
above.
Cut the term.
For the kids.
And you cut the term by 10 years.
So you have, yep, so 331.08, 0.5% traditional income tax.
But it's also for only 20 years.
Right.
And that's the real selling factor.
Pretty short.
What's the interest rate that you?
I use 4 3/4.
Now, is that a realistic number? Is that a realistic percentage that we're looking at?
Well, you're asking about what the interest rate would be if you're on the ballot in November and it passes. The financing wouldn't be done until about 90 days after the election, so we're talking March or April of 2020.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to know for sure, so you want to use a number that's relatively safe. If we were doing a 20-year issue today, it would be like 4.25%. So
Okay.
I have a 0.5% buffer in there
So with that scenario there, you've got money left over
for
for maintenance.
And again, under this scenario, we would be exempting all industry from paying taxes.
Hang on one second.
What's the amount left over?
Three and change.
Oh,
Difference between 344 and
302.
okay, all right.
that's basically 10%.
Wait, is on the economic development.
I exist a resident of Boyd Green School.
But, no,
So-
you just said something about industry. Who is that, so I can see how that is?
Well, industry pays what, about a third, right, of our taxes?
Of your taxes.
So if we do an income tax, that effectively means only the residents are paying, and all that industry one Bowling Green is completely exempted from public safety.
That's correct.
And that makes them more attractive to stay in the county as opposed to being pulled out and go
That's
elsewhere.
not true. That's not going to be the case, because all the relative tax burden of every community we consider, as well as the fact that nobody's moving for a $40 million change in their taxes. They'll build a $50 million house and they're changing $3 million.
Hang on.
You gotta think there's 17% off
I want. Just while you're on the topic, so this is the model that your current tax comparison. Remember the tax comparison. So you're not priced out of the market yet. 10 years from now or 20 years from now, it could be a possibility, but right now you're not. So just kind of keeping in mind where you are today in terms of the rank. You're 6th out of the 16 in the region. But
Are we remembering that the OFCC 17% is probably, possibly going to fall in there 10 years from now?
In which calculation?
Any of them?
No, in terms of the,
The 17% that we're maybe gonna might get.
but how would you like me to reflect that in any of this?
You can't.
Okay.
But you can. But
Okay.
that being said, you're effectively taking another 5 years off.
If the facilities commission comes in with their money,
Right.
if you guys choose not to do the high school,
Yeah.
yeah, but the existing loan is gonna be outstanding. You're gonna have to do another bond issue to finish the high school. The 17% is not gonna be enough. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, but if they submit a facilities master plan to OFCC, which includes the high school and this project, okay, it'll end up being 17% of the total master plan, am I not right? So it would be essentially 17% off of this if they created the master plan to include the high school
That's right.
in their setup
Yeah.
with OCC. Okay.
Yeah.
So it really could be 17% off this number.
Right, which you're gonna need to use to build the high school, or, you know, so.
Well-
Yeah, so, because I wanna make sure that people don't think, so if you don't do the high school, you can take the 17% and pay this one off. But 10 years from now, that 17% of this number, who's a good math person? 17% of 40. See, 10%'s 4.
Six,
Come on.
almost 7.
All right, so just take that, so you would have that from this project plus another 17% of what the high school's gonna cost, and then maybe that might be enough to do the high school, but it probably won't be, so you're gonna do another bond issue for the high school, plus the 17.5% that we get from the state as a match. So the high school, let's say it's gonna cost $20 million in the future, maybe we have to do a bond issue for $5 million or something like that, something small. You see how they break it out that way? So, and then who knows what the high, because the high school cost could be more than that in the future, so. Okay, anybody want to see any other alternatives on the traditional income tax? Okay, so the property tax number should stay the same. This is our property tax version, 37, 5 1/4. We're gonna split it. All right. You'll notice that the number, this is splitting at 50-50. The only reason that's happening is that we have to get rid of the traditional income tax and increase the existing operating income tax by an extra 0.25% to deal with the operational side of the school district. And that's what the penalty is from going from a traditional to an earned. I'm not going to share my opinion, but
What's the philosophy between traditional and earned? How did they end up with these two different?
people lobbied the state legislature to, the earned income tax really benefits people that are earning money from capital gains. And, well, in retirement, certain retirement, right? But when you think about lobbyists, people that, are on fixed income, but that fixed income is derived from certain partnership.
So they're
business
making money,
holders.
but they don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the earned income, the first 250,000, up to the first $250,000 of business income, and it's self-employed business income, including farm, rental income, any of those type of things, is exempt from it.
And that's pretty big in this community when you start talking between farm and rental, right?
Yeah.
So what it's doing is it's shrinking the tax base. It's shrinking the number of people to pay in. So you're going to see these numbers on the income side go up a lot, especially the median income person isn't one of those people. So it's going to really increase their burden by going earned. I really think we just kick this out.
Well, we're gonna get the vote on it. We're gonna do a real vote. You can say earned or traditional. But do you guys want to see any more variations on, that's a 50-50 split.
Could we see like 50-50 split with traditional, but at 25? Because I would hate to not have something for improvements. Like, I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot.
How much did you want me to do?
Like, do 25 years, but split it traditional 20, 20,
Hold
and
on.
then 25 years as opposed to 20.
Okay, hold on. Let me, because we only have 37 and 30 on our current ballot. Are you suggesting that on the voted bond, the property tax bond, to do a different term?
No, split, do the bond 20 and traditional income.
Bond at
Do
20.
25 years, I'm sorry. Because you
Oh,
do
she meant
2020.
the property tax 20, income tax 20, and then the year term, like 25 years instead of down to 20.
20 million, not 20 years.
Right.
Okay, that's where I was. I
Sorry.
thought you were telling me 20 years.
I
I'm
was
like, what are
not
you saying?
articulating that very well.
20 years, or 20 million. So split it 50-50, right?
Right. And then do
25 years?
25, yeah.
We'll leave that the same, 1.88. And then the income tax,
You got nothing left over.
I've got nothing left over.
Okay.
90, it'll start out at 90. I mean, that's not necessarily too bad, because again, it's gonna start there and gradually grow. So the total is 271.64, 22.64 a month. Okay, you guys ready?
Yes.
I just say one thing. You look at the affordability of the monthly cost. What are you paying for your cell phone?
I just got my bill.
I'll bet you paid more than.
I did, yeah.
What's up there?
Yeah. And so back to the question of how much is too much. It's a matter of where people, what matters.
Well, the less you
know.
have, the more important it is.
Yeah, yeah.
That amount.
All right, so we're gonna hand out, yes.
Can I have a question about this before we start voting?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if I read this on the top, okay, and all my votes are, all my answers below are based on the top.
Are you looking at my
Which-
questions that
which
I
are the
sent out?
Yes.
That's not what we're giving out right now. We're giving you a different ballot.
This isn't what we're voting on?
No. It's the same questions, but done in a vote where you get to
Okay.
check the boxes.
Well, let me ask this then.
Yeah.
The Facilities Committee has decided, this is the one you said, has recommended that we include the buildings, new schools, Conneaut, Kennewick, Redwood, Grimm, estimated cost 37.7. Okay, are my answers based on that statement
No.
at the top?
No. I am not trying to trick you. Are you worried that I'm gonna say that you said
Well,
that it was
if I
okay to do
agree
that
with these,
project?
okay, but if there's something I disagree with on this proposal here, then are my answers based on just this proposal?
No, the answers are based on a rough dollar.
Yeah.
You talked
So,
about a rough dollar figure between 37.
The next one, that the actual ballot that I'm handing out doesn't say anything about the project.
Oh, this isn't anything with.
No, I was being courteous in getting you questions to get you thinking about what we're gonna vote on tonight.
Okay, okay.
So that you didn't come in tonight and have to hurry up and go, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Yeah.
Just real quick on that last scenario, the 25 years,
Yes.
would the interest rate still be 4.75 or 4.5 years?
Yeah, approximately, yeah. Hang on, don't answer the questions yet.
We're shortening the term, but if we're doing an income tax, if you're gonna do an income tax, isn't it valid that you can 30-year terms, you can get as much upside as possible, and therefore, you can pay for a lot of stuff out of that upside
Yeah.
without changing anything we're trying to.
Yes, yes. But we, okay.
The example you gave us though of the full income tax, 20-year cycle, still had 10%, the money left over was 10% of what each year was, so that's your maintenance money right there.
It could be, yes.
And you were saying 8 to 10% was a good number.
There's your.
There's your.
But I don't want to put my ideas on you. This is, I don't want you guys to say, David Conley said put 10% in this thing and that'll really get kicked out. Yes, sir.
Balance says 37.
Right.
Is that?
That was before we had this conversation, so we're gonna talk. Don't answer any questions yet. You're gonna answer them wrong. And this is really, I want to make sure you guys get them first. It's really important you guys wait until we start going through these, because I want to make sure that I have answers that we can count. Is everyone allowed to vote?
That wasn't the rule she set up in the beginning. She said we had to be sure.
We have newcomers here?
Just curious.
Now, are we gonna need to change some things on here,
Yeah.
like the $40 million and then the term?
If you guys, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through here line by line. We have- Okay. Well, I don't want you to invalidate this election. Before we begin,
What was your rules?
my rule is, if we have anyone in this room that hasn't been an active participant since the beginning of this process, if you've never been in this room before with me, hold your hand up.
It depends. I've been from the beginning in some of the meetings, not particularly on this committee. I'm not voting. I'm just here
Okay.
to hear.
Okay.
Facilities.
To be fair to everyone who's spent many hours,
Do you have a ballot? Do you have a ballot though? I'm just reading the question.
Okay, let me get you a blank one, because we have numbers. We've got numbered ballots.
yeah, and I have a special toxin on each one of these sheets of paper that's activated by my app on my phone. And I know who has what, and I will push the button, and it will cause you to go to sleep at the least beneficial moment in your life.
Are there other people in here that haven't been here? Are there other people in here that haven't been here?
I haven't seen any other hands of people who have not been here. Okay.
Hey, David.
Well, I'll leave it up to you guys.
Hey,
This is not a joke.
you need pens?
Oh, if you guys need an extra pen, Bud has one. Because we've got a lot of people that have spent a lot of time. I don't want to invalidate the results of this process by having people sneaking in. And I remember most of your faces, but sometimes it's kind of hard to keep everybody straight. Okay. So what was I going to say before we answer that?
Before we enter the terms.
Okay, so I had originally put this at 37.7. I think we have all agreed that increasing it to 40 gives a couple things. A, the flexibility for the board to consider other building options, even though that's not our concern. And also provide some breathing room for additional inflation if it happens to come in. So if there's anyone who disagrees with that, just show me your hand right now, and we won't change it.
I just changed it.
No, okay. So make it 40.
Sorry.
Okay.
I can change it back.
Okay. If you do not recommend, if you're no to number one, you can stop there. Because any other answers confuse the results. So if you're a no to don't do anything, don't fill anything else out. Just stop there. Okay. All right, the first question, second question. And this is, again, just what we would recommend. It's recommendation only. A property tax bond only. And if so, tell me the dollar amount that you would put in there. So if property tax, well, actually, you wouldn't have to do that. It would be 40, right? Yeah. Thank you for guiding me through this. Okay, income tax only bond. And you could select traditional, and that would be a $40 million income tax bond. Everybody knows what the numbers are. The third choice is if we combine them, and we only did,
Did you do rank choices for number 2?
no. It would be a nightmare. Yeah. No, you're welcome to do it, I'm just gonna throw your ballot away. Yeah. Right. So, we've got to get this narrowed down, and, okay. The term, we talked about 37, 30, you guys had me put another one up here. I'm scared to death to put another one up here because I'll end up with all sorts of numbers on this page. 30 gets us pretty close to a shorter term if you want to go with a shorter term. Okay.
But if we do 30, it increases the annual tax burden on the tax rate.
That it increases the annual payment. So the shorter the term, the less the community pays over. You save 7 years worth of interest by doing a shorter term, but the annual payment is higher. So the taxes in the period from 0 to 30 would be higher on people that's here. So that's the trade-off.
When we put the numbers up, I think
Okay.
it's $1 a month if you went 30 versus 37.
Let's do this. I'm going to go back. Okay, it is, it's $15.82 a month for 30 years.
That's the interest rate.
Where was I?
5.25.
1652. Versus 1476. A year. Yeah. So $21 a year or a couple dollars a month.
How many million would that save us? If we paid it off quicker, like paying off your house quicker, your car,
That is a excellent.
whatever. How many million, do you have that, would save us?
I'm going to do the math real quick. Okay. So, I kind of like things to look a little organized. Okay, it saves you $7,350,000 in interest.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So about $1 million a year for that last 7 years.
About $1 million a year. Yeah.
From the standpoint of how much you pay a month, but is it the perception? I mean, there seemed to be in the original that was put forward that 37 was a lot of years. Is it? I don't want to downplay the 7 million, but is there an advantage of the perception that it's not?
Yeah, well, let's not downplay 7 million, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, there's,
And I don't
A lot of
want
money.
yeah, so this is, I mean, this is a very, very fair topic, and I want to make sure we take the time to talk about it. So on the pro side of the longer term is that you have a group of people at the low end of the income scale where $20 a year matters to them. you got people on the higher end of the income scale where $20 doesn't matter to them. But when they're paying the larger chunk of the overall tax over a number of years, that tax savings is meaningful. So if you were to compare a person who has a $50,000 house, their tax cost over 37 years to a person who has a $500,000 house, and their tax cost differential between 30 and 37 years, it's substantially more for that person with the higher home value. So, but you have a different. So you have opposing benefit. The longer the term benefits the people that are least able to pay. The shorter the term benefits the people that are most able to pay, but they're paying the most over time. So it's back to this structure.
It's kind of skewed, David. Both people pay the same amount over about the same amount of time.
Then I think 37 years is a great idea. Great recommendation.
So it has to do with not on what you make, what your asset limits are used in the property tax.
It's up to you guys.
The farmer
So
may not make what you think he makes, you know.
I don't know anything about agriculture, but the bottom line is, on $40 million, you save $7.3 million by having a 30-year term versus a 37-year term, long term. You just have a slightly higher payment for people in the community.
But you didn't talk about 4 to 5, and I'm not sure I understood the questions.
Have I gotten there yet? I don't think I got there yet.
I know. I'm just reminding you that-
I got people that want to move on. Are we still?
Let's move on.
You ready to move on? Okay. Where are we? 4. Okay, so maintenance. If you only want to do a property tax backed bond, you would have to add a new permanent improvement levy to do maintenance. If you use an income tax or an income tax combined with a bond issue, you could include the maintenance as a part of the income tax based on the math that we just put together. So if you think you're going to be voting to do any portion that would have an income tax in it, you can check this box, yes, which would suggest that any surplus money that we get from the income tax, we can use for capital maintenance.
You're going to explain that to the board to understand that answer?
I'm sorry?
You're going to explain to the board that's how
Oh, yeah.
the answer was intended.
You are, because you're going to present to the board
No, I'm not.
to tell them. I'm going to be there to support you, though. I'm going to be like right there saying, hey, yeah, we did the math. I'll show it to them. I can't do the
Make sure they
presentation.
understand what they're getting yes on, not
Yes.
additional money.
Oh, yeah.
I'd invite you up very
You may get it. Oh my God. So just so that we're clear, if you feel like,
But if you don't want to put it in maintenance, I want to pay the bond more aggressively, how is that done?
vote no on the maintenance. So there was a question, if you do not want to use the excess money from maintenance and you just wanted to pay the bonds off faster, then I said just vote no.
But that's not the way the question said.
The question said, do you recommend adding additional funds?
We're changing it on the fly. We're doing it because we just learned a little bit through this process.
So what should the wording be possibly so that everybody understands?
So
Instead of adding, it should use
surplus funds. Use, so change add to use. Does everyone understand?
Yeah.
If someone's confused, please say so. I don't want to put this wrong.
Would you recommend
Huh?
using?
Verify one more time. If you think that, if you're going to have an income tax, you can say that we want the surplus from the income tax to be used for the purposes of capital maintenance of the facilities.
Right, so what I'm hearing, question 4 should be, would you recommend using additional funds for maintenance of the building?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turn it off. The question.
This is the first time I've ever used a paper ballot. This is really confusing. The clicker would, can you imagine trying to do that with the clicker? Okay. I think number 5 is a part of the dollar amount now,
Yeah.
right?
We added.
Yeah. Do you guys agree with that?
So we are.
So,
Cross it out.
just cross it out. Yeah, just cross it out. Okay. Number 6 is just telling the district to apply for the expedited local partnership program, which is the program that the gentleman from the state came to describe to us. Preserves our opportunity to get money from the state in the future. Any questions on that? Okay. And, all right, so if you are of the camp that you want to do an income tax and a bond issue, you can choose to do them as separate questions or have it as a single ballot question, where it's 2 paragraphs though. First paragraph says a bond issue for X amount for X number of years for the purposes of building school buildings. And then the second paragraph says a traditional or earned income tax for a period of 25 or 30 years for the purposes of building school buildings. But it's 1 yes or no vote.
What's your experience if it's separate? How often one is voted up and one is voted down?
They generally both fail. That's my experience.
Say that again, Dave.
He asked what my experience is with them being separate questions. They generally both fail when I've seen them.
But
as
you
separate.
have one pass and one fail. What you got to build?
You could have a building. So, so the downside is if you do it separately, you end up with only half of what you're trying to get done.
So what did you get? What did you accomplish?
Yeah, you don't accomplish anything. And if you do, so if we want to do a bond issue only, property tax only, we'd have to add a separate permanent improvement levy to that bond issue. That would be a property tax permanent improvement levy. Okay. Oh, I saw, okay, the last one is when would you recommend placing the question on the ballot? May 2020 is not May, it's March 2020. I forgot it was a presidential. I can't believe it's already.
So that's the primary.
Right.
Or did you say August?
Or someone said, and perhaps it was you, that the springtime is the best time to get people to say
Oh,
yes.
hang on.
I'm sorry, I should choose.
Okay. Question was asked, when is our best levy election performance? We don't have a May next year, but that would fall in the other category. November, 75%.
David, one of the question is, how does this affect the operating levies that have to get renewed? I mean, you don't want to be sticking everything in one spot.
It is the rest of the puzzle becomes, when would the board be able to try to get the renewal of the existing levies dealt with in conjunction with this particular issue? The best I think we can do is give them what you think is the best for this group, and then they'll have to try, because again, we're still working that process. It's challenging.
What is the latest that they?
The renewals?
And make the renewal timeframe so there's no lapse.
For the emergency and the operating, it would, in terms of the latest for board action,
The latest ballot they could be on.
November of 20.
November 20 is the latest they could go with replacement operating levies.
Yes.
And make it in time to actually.
Not lose the money.
Not lapse.
Yeah. So we have this November, next March, next August, next November. We got 4 elections.
And they could put them on, the earliest they could put it on.
This November.
Yes, August is special election.
Yes.
That costs extra money, though.
It costs a lot of extra money. Yeah. So Bud just pointed out the August election next year is a special election. So school districts have to pay to get on the ballot. Special elections are, I'm going to guess, probably $75,000, if not more, just to put the issue on the ballot.
I guess the thinking is, if you don't get your operating levies,
Yeah.
what are you doing with your building?
Yeah. And from our perspective, we just have to say, this is what we think. The board's got to figure how these things come together, quite honestly. Okay.
But they could do like the operating levies in November 19 and do
this
in
next
November
year.
20, March or November.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, has everyone cast their votes?
David, I got one question.
Yes.
Back to the property tax, income tax. Do you think you put both of those down? Do you want to do a percentage type thing? I mean, nobody talked percentage.
In terms of the income tax rate?
If you do income tax and property tax.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, in terms of how much?
Yeah.
Of a split?
60.
Well, no one stopped me there.
Well, I did now.
Okay. Question is, on the income tax versus the combined income tax property. Yes, I would prefer if you would write on there 50-50 split, or the actual amount. Yeah.
And remember, the objective is share the pain.
Share the pain. No, it's not, it could be your objective. So my job, I want to try, these ballots, I don't want to have answers all over the place because it will be impossible to get. Yeah, I want to try on the main point. So I need my volunteers, my election count volunteers to join me on the other side of the wall here.
Thank you. Oh, nice.
Oh my God.